You strongly object to me saying it?
Yes.
That's tough.
Well...
Today we're delving into the fascinating world of the man who defined controversial talk shows in the late 1980s, the pioneer of trash TV, Morton Downey Jr. Only on the air from 1987 to 1989, with a brief return in 1994, Morton Downey Jr. was a trailblazer in the world of sensationalist talk shows. His confrontational style and provocative topics drew in millions of viewers. But with great power came great responsibility, and Morton Downey Jr. wasn't always on the right side of the truth. Our story begins with Tawana Brawley, a 15-year-old black girl from New York whose alleged abduction and rape in 1987 shook the nation. This case had the potential to reveal important truths about racism and violence in America.
The Tawana Brawley case.
She was found wrapped in a plastic bag, by some accounts, sexually assaulted.
The 16-year-old cheerleader said she'd been abducted 4 days earlier and had been repeatedly raped and sodomized.
More unsettling was the claim Brawley made on national television about one of her attackers.
He's a cop. He was a police officer.
Brawley attracted a team of activists to her side.
Morton Downey Jr. seized upon the sensational nature of the case, devoting multiple episodes of his show to it. He invited controversial figures, including Reverend Al Sharpton, who was handling publicity for Tawana Brawley, to discuss the case, further inflaming tensions and division.
Recently, even after the shenanigans with him and the other soldiers.
That's a lot of crap.
No, look, brother, you have your time.
That's a lot of crap.
Brother,
and I got
brother,
it.
no,
I got it.
no.
I got it.
No.
I got it.
But here's the shocking twist. Tawana Brawley's allegations were later proven to be a hoax. A grand jury found no evidence to support her claims, and the case eventually unraveled. It left a scar on the nation's psyche, and despite evidence to the contrary, Al Sharpton never admitted it was a hoax.
My name is Tawana Brawley. All right. I'm not a liar, and I'm not crazy.
It was 1987. Tawana Brawley was a 15-year-old who claimed she was raped by 6 white men in law enforcement, and Al Sharpton took up her cause. But there was no forensic evidence of any sexual attack, and there was evidence Tawana made up the whole story. The case, labeled a hoax, was dismissed, and Sharpton was forced to pay $65,000 to those he had named. But in all this time, he has never voiced any regret. You have gone back and looked at things with such a clear eye. You've apologized, you've asked for forgiveness, except on Tawana Brawley. I don't get it.
I'll be honest with you. I have thought about that a million times. I just don't believe they treated that case fair.
If I knew that I had in any way contributed to falsely accusing someone, I think I would feel an obligation to say I'm sorry.
I think you're right. I think the operative word is if you knew that. I don't know that.
If they didn't do
but
it,
but suppose they
you're
did.
taking the,
suppose they did.
But they didn't. They didn't.
Fast forward to 1989, and we encounter another shocking incident involving Morton Downey Jr., the infamous Skinhead attack at the San Francisco airport. Morton Downey Jr. claimed to have been attacked by a group of skinheads in an airport restroom. This incident gained extensive media coverage, and Morton Downey Jr. was hailed as a victim of hate crime.
Skinheads attacked him in a bathroom at San Francisco International Airport. He talked to reporters in his hotel room shortly after the alleged incident. Downey told us about it when he returned to his Manhattan apartment.
I was pushed inside of a stall. I never was sat down in the stall. I was leaned up against the stall. I did ask them not to hurt me. Next thing I knew, I was reaching for something blunt that I felt against my face. They pulled my hand down again. It's really hard to resurrect it sometimes. Pulled my hand down again, wrote something on my face, and cut my hair off, and then said, "Now you're one of us, Sig Heil." And they were gone.
But some San Francisco airport police and spokesmen don't believe Downey.
There has been no substantiation of any of the statements that Mr. Downey has made. There were no skinheads to be found in the area.
However, as it turned out, Morton Downey Jr. had faked the attack. Surveillance footage showed no signs of the alleged assault, and he eventually admitted to fabricating the story. Now let's shift our focus to the 21st century in the Jussie Smollett case, which bears eerie similarities to the Brawley and Morton Downey Jr. incidents. Jussie Smollett, an actor known for his role on the TV series Empire, claimed he was the victim of a racist and homophobic attack in Chicago. His story garnered widespread media attention and public outrage. But, as we all know, Smollett's case also unraveled, with evidence suggesting that he had orchestrated the attack himself.
Jussie Smollett made it all up. The actor and musician staged the hate crime against him, a claim of a noose around his neck, of two men attacking him on a frigid night in Chicago, dousing him with bleach, yelling, "This is MAGA country." All lies.
It raised questions about the role of sensationalism and media frenzy in such high-profile cases. A similar case happened even more recently in Alabama with the 2023 hoax kidnapping of Carly Russell. Morton Downey Jr.'s television career was at its peak in the late 80s, and he was known for his fiery persona and confrontational style. He didn't just embrace cigarettes, he made them a central theme of his show. Smoking on air and lighting up with guests was commonplace.
Junior, I hate to tell you, you're chain smoking in my face, and you're gonna get cancer, and please, don't get
In a time when the dangers of smoking were well documented, Morton Downey Jr. unapologetically downplayed the risks. He often made jokes about lung cancer and seemed to scoff at the idea that smoking could harm him or anyone else.
And I'd really appreciate it if you didn't smoke.
Kiss my ass.
We understood that you had promised not to smoke on this program.
Is that what you understood? Did you speak to me, sweetie?
We spoke
Did you
to the
speak to me?
producer.
Did you speak to me?
We couldn't get
Nobody
to you.
speaks to me or speaks for me. Well, that's why I'm being polite and holding it over here.
Holding it over there does
I'm
no
keeping
good. It's
I'm
gas.
holding it over
spreads
here.
100% through the air.
No, it doesn't. You're such a liar.
No, I'm
I
not
would
a
have
liar.
to stand
All
here
gas.
with every person in the room smoking
All
for
gas.
216 hours before you inhale the equivalent of one cigarette. You phony.
I didn't say that.
It's ironic how someone who made a career out of controversy chose to defend an industry associated with countless health problems and deaths.
Where do you get your Uncle George, you're watching tonight, you're 94. Put out those 2 packs of Camels you smoke every night, they'll kill ya. All right, that's my Uncle George. Grandpa, I know you're dead. You died at 101 with a Philip Morris in your hand, all right? You could have gone until
They're the
130
exception to the rule.
if you hadn't smoked.
Total
You guys are
exception.
Show me that those people came down from lung cancer from smoking. From all the people, from all the doctors, Professor. You damn right I doubt it.
You doubt that smoking
damn right.
causes lung cancer?
Read my lips, pal. You said I doubt it, all right? Of the number of lung,
difficult to believe
but of
that
the
anybody
number
could
of
be
lung-
so stupid today.
but of the number
as
of
to
lung
doubt the
cancer
evidence.
cases, of the number of lung cancer
I mean, this guy is here because he makes a living selling tobacco. He won't even accept that smoking hurts smokers. Ask him, does smoking cause lung cancer in
smoking
smokers?
causes cancer in smokers? I don't know if it does or not.
He doesn't
I
know.
don't pretend.
How could you study all the scientific knowledge and not even come to the conclusion? That's absurd.
My Professor, can't you get it through your filter tip brain? There is no link between lung cancer and someone else smoking in a room.
Where did you get your science degree from, Mort?
I don't have
What
a science
box of
degree
Cracker
other than a
Jacks do you
political
keep
science
coming up with
degree.
these figures and statistics. Where do they come from? I'll tell you
Where do
mine
yours come from, ass?
The National... Let's list it. The National Academy of Sciences, the World Health Organization, the British Medical
trust the
Association,
World Health Organization.
the American Cancer Society, the American Medical
The
Association,
American
the American
Cancer
Public Health
Society, which has
Association.
taken $300 billion from Americans to keep themselves going and never discover a cure for cancer.
more-
Amazing. Amazing.
They're all wrong.
What are these
And you and
things
Mr.
have
Tobacco
ever
Man
said?
haven't done
Smoking
what
causes
to
cancer.
cure
Companies
anything.
take it.
Well, that may
How
be.
many
It said it may be dangerous to your health.
You diagnose your own ailments, Mort? You do your own brain surgery? That's what's happening?
Fortunately, I don't get sick except when I
I
meet
asked
people
who did
like
your
you.
brain surgery. There is a problem.
You know, Mort,
I don't get sick.
But you're doing your own, that's
I'm very lucky.
Mort, how old
Incidentally,
were you?
For a heavy smoker, I've missed one day of work in 12 years. Interesting, huh?
And that was when I had a bad hangover. Go ahead.
Fast forward to the later years of Morton Downey Jr.'s life, and the irony couldn't be more stark. The man who once joked about lung cancer found himself diagnosed with the very disease he had trivialized.
This man, and you'll recognize him well, Morton Downey Jr., former talk show host and lung cancer survivor, joins us this morning. Good morning, Morton. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks, Karen.
It's great to see you and in such good health.
I gotta tell you, you look a lot better than Wally.
Well, thanks, Morton.
He won't be happy about that.
I hope he's not watching. So tell me, how are you feeling?
I feel like $1 million, thank God. Yeah, I feel great. It's almost a year since I had
Has it been a year?
my two lungs, my two lobes on the right side excised, removed, taken out, gotten rid of. And I'm hanging in there pretty good.
It must have been such an ordeal. How did that change your life?
You know, it changed it for the better. A, I don't smoke anymore, which I was a 4 to 5 pack a day smoker. B, I spend more time with my little girl, who's now 3.5 years old, and my wife, Lori. And I didn't spend the time with them before. I was always out hustling. Now, I'm still out hustling, but I got them with me. They come almost on all the trips with me.
When did you start smoking, Morton?
I started smoking at the age of 13 when I was a student at Georgia Military Academy. And part of my get into the freshman class was tying me to a chair and forcing me to learn how to inhale. And I should have known then, when it made me throw up the first puff, and the second one made me gag, and the third made me gag, and was about the 20th that I finally got the knack of it. I should have known then the body didn't want that damn thing in there, or I wouldn't have gotten sick from it.
So you smoked just about your whole life. Did it ever control your life or control your television career?
Well, of course, I used to use a cigarette for so many things. I'd hold a cigarette up and I'd look right into the lens and I'd say, "You don't like what you just heard? Kiss my butt." You know, and I'd use the double entendres with the cigarette. Did it control my life? Obviously it did. I didn't think it did. Was I addicted to it? Obviously I was. I didn't think I was. Did I get cancer from it? I sure did, and I didn't think I could. Why? Well, Grandpa smoked. He smoked until he was 101 years old. Grandma didn't. She lived to 97. Uncle George smoked. He lived to 97 years old. Everyone in my family smoked and lived a long life, so I knew that I would smoke and live a long life. I think I'll still live a long life, but I don't smoke anymore.
I hope so. Do you blame anybody for that addiction, Morton?
Yeah, me. I'd like to be able to blame the tobacco companies, all right? I'd like to be able to blame them. Now, until yesterday, the only person I blamed was me, and I've publicly done that. I've come on this show and other shows and done that. Said that I was the fool, I was the one who was weak, I was the idiot. However, now we're finding out really that the tobacco companies knew it was addictive. They knew it could cause cancer. I'm going to have to reassess some of my feelings about who is primarily and only and singularly to blame, if anyone, for my habit.
I'm going to call on Mr. Downey first. I must say that he spent a lot of time in the state of New Jersey, and I watched him with his television program out of a New Jersey station in which the smoke used to blow, and he conducted a very vigorous TV program, a lot of interest. And he has his own experience with smoking that he wanted to tell us about, and I'll ask him to go first. And Mort, if you want to show that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, if I said that I had smoked 11,000 cigarettes in my lifetime, you'd say, well, that's quite a few cigarettes. Fact of the matter is I've smoked 11,000 cigarettes on television and in motion pictures. I used to think it kind of made me look like Humphrey Bogart. By the time I found out I was dying with cancer, I felt more like Betty Davis. I'd like, if you would, to take a look at this public service announcement that I made the day after my doctor told me I had lung cancer. I'm Morton Downey Jr., so-called television tough guy. You know something? I knew cigarettes could never hurt me. Wrong. Now I've got lung cancer, and I could die. What really bothers me is I won't be around to see my 2.5-year-old grow up and say, no, I don't smoke.
If you don't smoke, don't start. If you want to quit, call the American Lung Association at 1-800-LUNG-USA.
Morton Downey Jr.'s battle with lung cancer was a stark reminder of the consequences of smoking. He underwent treatment and faced the harsh reality of the disease he had once dismissed. In the end, Morton Downey Jr. passed away in 2001, and his death served as a sobering lesson about the dangers of cigarettes and the irony of his own fate.
Show with Al Sharpton.
Reality is presenting Gloria Allred to the world for the first time. Professor Alan Dershowitz.
Perhaps he'd done something important that went beyond a television show.
I was sitting home one day and the phone rang, and I was shocked. It was Morton Downey calling me in a low, weak voice.
To single out Israel for criticism is anti-Semitism.
It is
to consider it compared.
That is the cry, Alan.
He just wanted to remind me of our earlier days, ask me if there's anything I needed from him before he departed this world. I told him that I thought he had contributed a lot to television for unrepresented and disenfranchised people.
Tell me what you did, tell me what you'll do.
He seemed to appreciate hearing that, particularly, he said he didn't hear that so often from people like me.
For this part, we embarked on a painstaking journey to curate and share the most sensational moments from every available Morton Downey Jr. show episode online. We uploaded these clips to TikTok and other social media platforms to gauge which topics would go viral and ignite fiery discussions 35 years later. Some of these topics have sparked passionate debates, much like they did on Morton Downey Jr.'s show, but in the digital age, discussions can take unexpected turns, and some have devolved into insane and even anti-Semitic rants.
Jewish immigrant. I grew up in Lewiston, Maine. At the age of 5, I was beaten up regularly for being a Christ killer by French Canadian Catholics. I tried to convince them at the age of 5, how could a 5-year-old kid like me kill your God? That was taught by the church for 20 centuries, and it wasn't Hitler only who created the ovens. It was the church that created a climate for 20 centuries which said in Europe, with impunity, it is all right.
It's fascinating to see how conversations that were once held in a TV studio now play out on the internet, reaching a global audience and often taking on a life of their own. As we revisit the Morton Downey Jr. show through the lens of TikTok-era social media, it's clear that many of the issues he tackled remain relevant today. Whether it's debates about race, politics, or social justice, the conversations continue and they are more important than ever. However, the digital age also brings with it a responsibility to ensure that these discussions remain civil and respectful. We've seen how some conversations can devolve into hate and bigotry. In the end, revisiting the Morton Downey Jr. show reminds us that while times may change, the issues that divide and unite us as a society often remain the same. It's up to us to engage in these discussions with a commitment to making progress.
Hey, how about you?
How you doing, Morton? I think you and Donald Trump should run for president. I tell you, I sympathize with the Jews in Russia, but my major concern is with the United States.
Today we've explored the life, legacy, and controversies of Morton Downey Jr., a man whose career was marked by controversy and whose personal choices had profound consequences. As the pioneer of trash TV, Morton Downey Jr. sparked conversations that continue to shape our understanding of the world around us.
I know a senator in the United States today, who she probably know, I know, who likes to get down on his hands and knees like this, have ostrich feathers put in his rear end, a collar put on, and the dominatrix pet him and say, "Nice bird." Huh?
That's a sick son of a bitch.
That's a sick guy.
And
That's the guy who's making the laws that make this possible.
Society with the women he does it with.
Let's come back, all right? Let's come back in just a second. Continue this.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Senators, American Lung Association friends, like 3,000 kids every day, I began smoking at the age of about 13 years old. My parents had sent me to a military school, and all my buddies smoked. I thought it was cool. So I started too. By Christmas vacation, I was good and hooked, banging down about 20 cigarettes a day. I knew they couldn't hurt me because the full-page advertising in Life magazine and the Policeman's Gazette. Wonder how many people remember the Policeman's Gazette. Well, it said that more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Think of how hooked I was. It was military boarding school, and every time I got caught smoking, it was 10 demerits, which meant that I had to march 10 hours with a rifle on my shoulder after class or on weekends. In my first year, I marched over 300 hours of punishment for smoking. My dad said that showed exactly how stupid I was for smoking. Billy Walden was my roommate, and he said it showed how stupid I was to get caught. I kind of agreed with Billy, kept smoking, and kept marching. Billy Walden, my roommate, died when he was 53 years old. He'd given up smoking at 40 and started chewing tobacco so as not to get lung cancer. He died 10 years ago of tongue and throat cancer. Not much of a trade-off. What kind of trade-off are we giving our children, Mr. Chairman? An absolute guarantee that if we do not face our responsibility right now, at least 1,000 of these new daily smokers will die an agonizing death from some smoking-related disease. To those who falsely gnash their teeth about First Amendment rights, what about the preamble of the Constitution? Those first thoughts our forefathers had before they wrote that. It was called the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Cancer certainly will steal their life. Liberty means the right to be liberated from our own youthful stupidity. Mr. Chairman, can I find happiness for my child when I know that adults who pretend to care for her, be they the tobacco lobbyists, our government that is sworn to protect her, all abandon their responsibility and bow to the cigarette giants, the tobacco terrorists? She needs your courage. She needs your leadership. She needs your ability to stand up in the face of those who would spend $5 to $6 billion a year to send our children to an early and agonizing death, and yet not spend 1 red cent toward the breaking of that smoking habit that teenagers have, or money to purchase medication for the agonizing pain as death approaches, or dollars even to develop a cure that their addicting gift has given to these children. And to think I was a role model for cigarette smoking youth, even signing my name on their cigarettes. I estimated the other day I signed over 1,100, fully 1% of what I smoked, 1,100 cigarettes with my name on them when teenagers would walk up and say, "Hey, Mort, sign this for me." To that generation, I beg your forgiveness. May the next generation have kinder and wiser role models than I was. Role models such as you gentlemen. Role models such as Bill Clinton, who had the guts to step forward and do what he's done. It's not the type of thing that gets him a lot of votes. It's the type of thing that saves lives of people who someday will vote. The tobacco terrorists, are they thinking of weakening any regulations? Of course they are. But we must not let them deny our youth the opportunity to survive. We must deny them the right to destroy the youth, as many of us have already destroyed ourselves. My little girl need not suffer as I have, as many of my colleagues have. The FDA plan we're talking about here today would help keep my daughter and millions of other children from smoking. And legislation, the Senator Harkin's bill for a higher excise tax on cigarettes, would be oh so important for all of the people who come after me. Think of some of my fellow smoking friends. I know that you gentlemen have known them too. Sammy Davis Jr., Yul Brynner, Humphrey Bogart, Edward R. Murrow. They smoked, and they paid the final price for it. Wouldn't it be a better world if they were here today? And now I'd like to introduce a man who helped me get through my ordeal with lung cancer. When they told me I had 6 months to a year to live, and all I wanted was 2 years so I could see my daughter get to 5, when I knew maybe she would remember me if I could make it until she was 5. Dr. Martin Gordon is the gentleman who made it possible for me to survive. He's going to be with us in a few minutes, but I understand that I introduced you out of turn. Doctor, could I ask you to step up to the microphone there? Dr. Gordon was the gentleman who, when they said they couldn't operate, who spent over a month looking for a doctor who had perfected certain types of operations to operate on me and to save my life. And I am so grateful to him and so grateful to you people that you are doing what you're doing. Martin.
Well,
thank you.
We're glad to have Morton Downey here as well, but...
As to the alternative.
Let me read this to you, all right? Surgeon's warning. Smoking causes lung cancer, heart disease, emphysema, and may complicate pregnancy. Labels, they suck.
Hi. Former registered nurse who worked in an emergency room in Brooklyn. That fat-ass woman died. Mort, I hope God forgives you. I hope God forgives you.
I hope
because
God
this
forgave
movement,
her.
This
I hope
movement
God
is
forgave
made
her.
up of nothing but women haters.
I hope God
and you
forgave
think
her.
that little thing he's showing is more important than that woman's
You're
life?
damn right,
Bill
I
Baird
think.
is saving
You're damn
lives.
right, I